There's this conversation I remember clearly. A friend looked me in the eyes and said, I have not lost faith in God. I have lost faith in God's people. And honestly, I felt that deeply. Today, we are diving into a subject that sits heavily in the hearts of many: church ought. When the place that is supposed to be your spiritual home becomes the source of your deepest wounds. Welcome to Authors and Agendas, where we talk about what happens when real life meets real faith. Let's start here. What exactly is church ought? It's not just being offended because the sermon went wrong or someone didn't say hello to you. No, it's much more deeper than that. It is betrayal of trust. It is spiritual abuse. It is the misuse of authority in God's name. It is being shamed instead of being shepherded, being silenced when you ask hard questions, or cast out when you don't conform. Church hurt happens when the people who are supposed to reflect Jesus look nothing like him. And the reason it cuts so deeply is because it's spiritual pain. It wounds the soul, not just the feelings. And when something sacred breaks, it breaks differently, messier, heavier. Maybe you are there, maybe you are still there. So, what do you do when the people of God have pushed you away from the presence of God? Some people walk away entirely, they disconstruct their faith, and for some, they never rebuild it. Others try to find another church home, hoping it won't end in another heartbreak. And then there are those who keep showing up, quietly bleeding in the pews. And listen, if you have been told you are too sensitive or you just need to forgive and move on, I want to let you know your pain is valid. Jesus flipped tables not because people sat in a seat, but because people were exploiting others in a place meant for worship. Jesus cared about the temple. He still does. But here's the hard truth: healing doesn't always come from the pulpit. Sometimes it begins with silence, in therapy, in honesty, in deciding to unlearn distorted versions of God you were taught in His name. Healing from church hurt is like recovery after spiritual whiplash. You've got to relearn what healthy spiritual movement feels like, and it's okay to take your time. Some folks need to step away from church to catch their breath. That is not rebellion, it is survival. Some seek counseling or community outside traditional structures. Others find healing in small, raw, sacred spaces like living room Bible studies or long walks with God in the quiet. Forgiveness is not pretending it didn't happen. It doesn't mean instant trust. Forgiveness is not a shortcut. Forgiveness is a journey, and what it can do is set you free from the grip of resentment that is choking your joy. And trust, it can be rebuilt, but it doesn't have to be rushed. Healthy churches, real ones, invite questions, honor boundaries, and own their mistakes. Now, if you're in leadership, if you're someone who is the church, this part is for you. We have got to stop gaslighting the wounded and start washing their feet. We need less defending the institutions and more defending the oppressed. If the church wants to be the body of Christ, it has got to be willing to bleed with the hurting and not just preach at them. Ask yourself, is your church a place where people can be honest about pain, or is it a place where people have to hide it to belong? Because until we face our failures with humility, we will keep producing more pains in the name of God. And Jesus deserves better than that. So here's the challenge this week. If you've been hurt by the church, know that Jesus is not your abuser. He weeps with you, he walks with you, and he's not afraid of your distance or your questions and doubts. If you're still healing, take your time. You're allowed to heal at your pace. And if you're part of a church that wants to do better, start by listening. Just listen. Because this is where real faith is tested and where healing can begin. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, grace and peace.